It's time to get your news on. We are VK1WIA.
And let's get this news on for October 1, the Daylight Saving edition of WIA National News. I'm Graham, VK4BB. Joining us this week, Giles Kirby, VK5GK, WIA Director. WIA's AR Magazine Editor-in-Chief, Roger Harrison, VK2ZRH. And bookending the news with old and young timers, Clive, VK6CSW, and Alex, VK2APC. Now, last week may be our first birthday call. So this week, yep, another one. I don't know what we've let ourselves in for here. Maybe lost dog announcements next week. Anyhow, it's a 5th birthday shout-out right now.
This is Peter, VK5DMR. This Tuesday night is the 5th anniversary of the VK-DMR net. The net started off small when I was living in Queensland and has grown exponentially over the last 5 years. We've had people call in while on holidays, utilising their hotspots across the country, and even had a few stations call in Maritime Mobile over the years. So, dust off those radios and come get your call sign on the log. Timings have changed due to daylight saving. Queensland, 7 p.m. New South Wales, ACT, Victoria and Tasmania, 8 p.m. South Australia, 7:30 p.m. Northern Territory, 6:30, and WA at 5 p.m. Please come and join us on Talk Group 505 on Australia's largest digital amateur network. This has been Peter, VK5DMR and VK4NBL for VK1WIA.
This is WIA Director Giles Kirby, VK5 Golf Kilo, providing the board update. Last week, the ACMA consultation on assessor accreditation and arrangements closed, and the WIA made a 10-page submission. This submission was an excellent collaboration between the Education and the Spectrum Strategy Committees of the WIA. Online collaboration spaces like Google, Teams and Slack are one of the really great things to come from the different ways we live and work in recent years, especially useful to us given that we have committee members from all over Australia as well as overseas. The WIA is positive about the direction the ACMA is taking in relation to setting up the assessment service from February 2024 when the deed expires with the AMC. The submission asks some key questions that include: why is there a 50-kilometre limit for remote assessments, use of home premises, public liability cover, digital literacy concerns, further clarification about process, recognition of prior learning, and fees and charges. There are also some questions about how the transition process will work, along with ensuring and maintaining the integrity of the assessor system. On behalf of the board, I'd like to say a huge thank you to the Education and Spectrum Strategy Committees for their input, and to Justin Giles Clark, VK7TW, for bringing it all together. You can find a copy of the WIA submission to the ACMA on the WIA website newsfeed. I've said this before, but the WIA relies on the passion and drive of volunteers to represent the amateur radio service. A relatively small number of dedicated individuals give their time and effort to support the future of amateur radio in Australia, and to each and every one of them I'm immensely grateful. This has been your board update. Best wishes and 73s. This is Giles Kirby, VK5 Golf Kilo, for the VK1 WIA National News.
Thanks, Giles. Now, did receive a jot point last Monday, September 25, that Darwin to Japan 2-metre contacts were made recently, 20 plus on FT8 and SSB. Richie, VK8RR, has told WIA News he will send us a report soon, so we're looking forward to receiving that audio. In the meantime, a report now on the latest AR magazine.
So, dudes, this is Editor-in-Chief of Amateur Radio Magazine, Roger Harrison, VK2ZRH. This week, I had to fall on my knees and do a mea culpa for an error I committed last week. In introducing the new Listening In column, I paid tribute to previous AR Magazine columnist Robin Harwood, VK7RH, who contributed Spotlight on SWLing for decades. Mistakenly, I said he was a silent key. My forehead hit the spacebar on my laptop keyboard on being advised of this, followed by an email from Robin himself. My apologies, Robin. Recovering my composure, what else is there in issue 5, which has begun landing in letterboxes and newsagents this past week? Given that the ACMA is currently consulting the radio amateur community about working out the details of how examinations and assessments will be carried out in the future, it so happens that we have a very timely article on something of a stumbling block of where exams may be held. Jules Perrin, VK3JFP, a long-time assessor and also a member of our publications committee, describes a recent incident in which exam assessments were withheld until the issue of whether they were conducted at premises other than his residence was resolved. This is a must-read article that is of particular interest to all present and past assessors, as well as clubs, and for that matter, anyone with an interest in the governance of amateur radio in Australia. The issue has been referenced in the WIA's recent submission to the ACMA's consultation on proposed amateur radio qualifications and assessor accreditation arrangements. For the Solar Smoke Brigade, we have a nifty mod for the Pop and Pulsar test project published in issue 2. Remember that? It generates an audio pulse for testing and setting up transceivers and linear amps, saving you having to whistle or repeat "hello." Keith Curley, VK50Q, describes how he substituted a MOSFET in place of the LED LDR assembly that pulsed the audio tone in the original project designed by Jim Tregellis, VK5JST. October being Jamboree on the Air, that is, JOTA, we have Alec Cherry, VK2APC, with Below 25, a column about young people on the air. He outlines the story of how JOTA came about in the late 1950s and was joined by Jamboree on the Internet, JOTI, in the late 1990s. JOTA with JOTI burst into life over 20th through 22nd October. The Geelong Amateur Radio Club celebrates 75 years of life this year. Tony Collis, VK3JEGC, tells the story of the club's formation and later acquisition of the call sign VK3ATL. To mark its Diamond Jubilee, Geelong ARC obtained the special event call sign VI75G for use all year. Look for it on the bands. There's a special QSL card to be had. If you're keen on playing ham radio in the outdoors, you'll be eager to read of the 2023 Pilliga Park Fest. Marty Nelson, VK4KC, tells about the adventures of the 20 participants. Elsewhere in issue 5, Will McGee, VK6UU, goes into remote stations, with a focus on VK6CRO, located at Carnarvon, which is on Western Australia's coast, some 890 kilometres north of Perth. Completing issue 5's focus on When All Else Fails, we have an article on the role amateur radio plays in the new $25 million purpose-built Disaster Emergency Management Centre on Queensland's Gold Coast. In addition, Newcomer's Notebook goes into the matter of the Go Box, a complete all-in-one portable amateur radio station, something that you can pick up and take with you in an emergency where independent communications is needed. What's more, Spectrum Horizons is back with an article detailing how two clubs with keen interest in VHF, UHF and microwaves, one from VK2 and one from VK4, got together on a lonely lookout in northern New South Wales to do it differently for the 2023 Winter VHF, UHF Field Day. It's a soliloquy on a sojourn. This issue's Alara column from Jenny, VK3WQ, updates details on the Alara Meet event happening in Hobart in 4 weeks' time. VI7 Alara can be worked until 9 November. Amateur Radio Magazine, Volume 91, Issue Number 5 for 2023. Serving Australian radio amateurs for 90 years. Available in print and online. I'm Roger Harrison, VK2ZRH, for VK1WIA News.
From here, there and everywhere, you tune to the Wireless Institute of Australia's national news service. We are VK1WIA. Now Now with international news, Jason, VK2LAW.
Hello. In news from Region 1, WRTC 2026 becomes an RSGB-affiliated special interest group. The United Kingdom is delighted to have been awarded the hosting rights for the 10th WRTC taking place in July 2026. Every 4 years, much like the Olympic Games, the World Radio Sport Team Championship, known as WRTC, relocates itself to a new host nation. WRTC is a radio contest event designed to provide a platform for high-achieving ham radio contesters to compete on a level playing field in the same geographic region using identical antennas, output power, and other operating conditions. Each team will have to qualify over a significant period of time by participating and scoring extremely well in a collection of HF radio contests from this month, October 2023, to March 2025. Then in July 2026, 50 qualifying teams, comprising of 100 operators, will arrive in the UK from most parts of the world and will represent their home countries, much like the style seen in the Olympic Games. The International Broadcasting Convention was held in September in Amsterdam with over 43,000 attendees, 1,250 exhibitors, and 325 plus speakers across an expanded number of theatre halls to champion new technologies, future business models, and creative innovations that broaden the horizons of media and entertainment. The organisers noted that topics such as cloud and AI were front and centre throughout the show floor theatres and exhibition halls. Organisers also announced that IBC will return in September of 2024 in Amsterdam. To news from Region 2 in Canada, the Cambridge Amateur Radio Club Victor Echo 3 Sierra Whiskey Romeo went QRT earlier this month, following a break-in at the shed where the club stores its equipment. Stepping up and lending a helping hand, or is that a helping ham, the Kitchener-Waterloo Amateur Radio Club. While the Cambridge Club sorts out the damage and losses from the early September incident, members have been given use of the Kitchener-Waterloo Club's equipment and repeaters. Harry Nysen, Victor Echo 3 Hotel Zulu, president of the Kitchener Club, told CBC that it was natural for the club to open its doors to help fellow hams. According to a story on the CBC website, Scott Mitchell, Victor Alpha 3 Golf Tango, president of the Cambridge Club, said that the club's electric generator went missing, along with numerous tools after the break-in. Part of the storage shed had been set on fire and the club's repeaters suffered smoke damage. The club's duplexer had been thrown to the other side of the shed and was also destroyed. In the USA, the Amateur Radio Operator's Toolkit for Disaster Assistance usually consists of towers, radios, antennas and other communications equipment. Now, one club in Missouri has just added a new device, one that communicates with the heart. AR Newsline said Sedalia Pettis Amateur Radio Club has a new addition to its emergency communications trailer. It's an AED, an automated external defibrillator, which is capable of restoring the heart's natural rhythm in cases of cardiac arrest. Kilo Echo Zero Quebec Yankee Alpha told local media that the AED will be placed in the emergency communication trailer that hams use during disaster drills, as well as real emergencies. To news from Region 3, who listens to the radio? In Indonesia, their regulator now authorises the simulcasting of analogue and DRM digital radio in the standard broadcast bands we here in Australia are used to in our radios. Plus, in VHF Band 3, the new regulation authorises the use of DRM in the 174 to 202 MHz portion of the band and DAB Plus in 202 to 230 MHz. There's no requirement to simulcast analogue and digital signals, and there's no analogue shut-off plan in the regulation. In China, a joint recommendation from the National Radio and Television Administration, the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology, and the State Administration for Market Regulation has called for strengthening in-car radio reception, in part by accelerating the rollout of DRM for domestic AM broadcasters. The recommendation calls for accelerated integration and expansion of AM networks using the DRM radio standard. as well as for promoting the use of analog digital simulcasts. Finally, Pakistan Federal Minister for Information and Broadcasting, Murtaza Salangi, addressed the International Conference on Radio Resource Control and Management at IBC 2023, highlighting Radio Pakistan's digitisation efforts, which includes a transition to DRM digital broadcasting in all wave bands. In late July, we here at WIA National News told how Radio Pakistan broke ground on a massive DRM project, including a new 1,000 kilowatt transmitter that extends the broadcaster's reach from the Mediterranean to the Pacific. New Zealand amateur radio milestones. Arguably the best laid out and easy to navigate webpage showing a timeline of notable events for amateur radio in New Zealand and NZART is to be found on their nzart.org.nz webpage. Craig Crawford, Zulu Lima 3 Tango Lima Bravo, is to be congratulated on this project. Now, I'm pretty sure it isn't our own WIA news editor VK4BB Graham Kemp, but way back in 1888, the first entry on this timeline is one G. Kemp, who began wireless experiments in Gisborne, New Zealand. For VK1 WIA National News, in Sydney, I'm Jason VK2LAW.
We are VK1 WIA. Now, operational news with Felix, VK4 FUQ.
Hello there. Now, contest-wise, October, Oceania DX contest. Phone, the October 7 and 8, 0600 hours UTC Saturday to 0600 hours UTC Sunday. CW, October 14-15, from 0600 hours UTC Saturday to 0600 hours UTC Sunday. 75th CQ Worldwide DX Contest SSB leg is October 28-29. With the CW test, November 25-26. Both legs run 0000 hours UTC Saturday, ending 23:59 hours UTC Sunday. VHF Eurotrip Spring Field Day, 25-26 November, 0100 hours UTC Saturday to 0059 hours UTC Sunday. But for our Perth listeners and viewers, in fact all over VK6 you can add 3 hours on the start and end times. DX window, October. The special call sign VI7ALARA is active on the HF bands until the 8th of November, commemorating the Australian Ladies Amateur Radio Association's meeting to be held in Hobart, Tasmania. The call sign is being operated by a number of YLs in Tasmania and throughout Australia. See QIZ.com for more details. Acromegaly Awareness Day this year has, to raise awareness of this medical condition, a special call sign all of November, VI4 ACRO. VI10 VKFF running all year celebrates the 10-year anniversary of the VKFF group. VK90AR for Amateur Radio Magazine. October 2023 this year sees your WIA celebrating 90 years of continuous publishing of Amateur Radio Magazine, the official journal of the Wireless Institute of Australia. The WIA will be running the VK90AR activity until December 31. Special event station VI100MB all year celebrates the centenary of the Manly Warringah Radio Society. Rebel DX Group are using the call sign T22T from Tuvalu, IOTA OC015, till the 9th of October on 160-6 metres using SSB and FT8, either in normal or Foxhound mode. Visit the QIZ.com page for T22T for further details. East Kiribati. Ken KH6QJ is QRVS T32OZ from Kiridamati, IOTA OC024 until October 17. QSL to home call, which again is KH6QJ. France. Special event station TM23RUGB will be QRV October 16 to 22 during the Rugby World Cup. Activity will be on the HF bands, QSL via F5 KHG. For VK1 WIA National News, I'm Felix, VK4FUQ in England.
From here, there and everywhere, you've tuned to the Wireless Institute of Australia's National News Service. We are VK1 WIA. Now, special interest group news with Cole, VK3 GTV.
Hello, first up it's Worldwide Special Interest Group News, Summits on the Air, Worldwide Flora and Fauna Program, Parks on the Air and other adventure groups. Ben Lloyd is taking on the challenge of activating 10 new summits with some amateur radio equipment. In Ben Lloyd's case, it means taking on 10 new summits in the Outer Hebrides. Ben is a board director for Radio Society of Great Britain, the RSGB, the UK's National Society for Amateur Radio Enthusiasts, and is planning to climb 10 summits on remote islands and from there make SOTA contacts to the world. When successful, it will be the first time the summits have ever been activated. Worldwide Special Interest Group CW. Hams in Latvia celebrate the mechanical key. You may have worked the Latvian contest group YL1ZX in any number of major contests on the band over the course of any year. Well, now those same hams are involved in another activity, one that its members have organised as a kind of celebration. It's a celebration of the mechanical key used by many CW operators. This 1 hour activity featuring bugs, sideswiper and straight keys will encourage amateurs to shake the dust off on the 13th of October and engage in as many QSOs as they can using a simple exchange. The activity frequencies will be between 3.520 MHz and 3.560 MHz. Operators will be calling CQMK, of course, for mechanical key. This is the third activity of its kind that the group will have hosted this year in the hopes of recognising these keys' increasing popularity. For details and to see the operator's simple exchange, see the link that can be found in the text version of this week's WIA National News. Worldwide Special Interest Group's Final Frontier. Researchers have designed a miniature rocket thruster so small that it can only be fabricated using techniques originally intended for creating silicon microchips. Satellites weighing under 10 kilograms, constituting approximately 90% of today's satellite launches, present a unique set of challenges when it comes to developing components for them. Among the most critical challenges is designing rocket thrusters tailored to the limitations of CubeSats. These thrusters must not only be diminutive in size, but also uncomplicated, unpressurized, low power, and devoid of toxic materials. Funded by the European Space Agency, this thruster meets these stringent criteria, with its primary attribute being its diminutive size. The entire thruster chip, comparable in length to a human fingernail, features a combustion chamber and nozzle measuring a mere 1 millimetre. Worldwide Special Interest Groups, Radio Amateur Old-Timers. Here's Clive, VK6CSW, with a reminder.
Reminding you that tomorrow is the first Monday of the month, time for the Radio Amateurs Old Timers Club of Australia's October Bulletin to go to air. This month, Andrew, VK3CAH, brings us the latest club news, after which I'll be talking about the Earth Inductor Compass, followed by Bill, VK3BR, telling us about the AA3 Mark 7 gunfire control system. Everyone, RAOTC members and non-members alike, is most welcome to listen to the programme and to join in the callbacks afterwards. Full details of all transmissions, times and modes can be found on the RAOTC website at www.raotc.org.au or just Google RAOTC broadcasts. If none of the transmission times suit you, you can download the audio file at any time from today from the club website. The next lunchtime meeting for members and friends of the RAOTC in Perth is on Tuesday, October the 10th at the Woodbridge Hotel, East Guildford, starting at 11:30. All are welcome. Full details are on the club website. 7-3 from Clive, VK6CSW.
Thanks, Clive, and once again, tune in tomorrow for the October RAOTC Bulletin. Enjoy the program and please join in the callbacks afterwards. And speaking of old-timers, I was just thinking, who is VK's oldest ham? Let us know. Drop national news at wia.org.au a quick note so we can give our elder statesman a shout-out, much like the ARRL has credited W4OXH Oscar Norris as the USA's oldest. Oscar turned 106 last Monday, September 25. Hope you had a great day, Oscar. Worldwide Special Interest Groups Radio Scouting. All official scouting frequencies worldwide are shown in the text edition of this news. And with more scouting news, here's Alec, VK2APC.
Thank you, Cole. Jamboree on the Air, Jamboree on the Internet, Joda Jodi is on this month from 20th of October to 22nd of October. Uncle Kempy, VK4 Baker, has told me about a great Joda Jodi resource whilst he was searching Facebook recently. It is from our friends at Ham Radio Ireland, in which they have credited an Aussie club, the Manly Warringah Radio Society, VK2MB. In the past, VK2MB has taken HF rigs and antennas to a nearby Joda campsite. Setting up and tearing down all the gear was a lot of work, so they worked with the Scout Association to streamline the whole operation and give the youth members a broader introduction to amateur radio. These days, Scouts and Guides are brought to the club rooms in groups for about an hour and a half each. They are split up into smaller groups, and during their time they rotate between a number of different activities, each lasting about 15 minutes. They learn how to assemble an emergency radio station, get an introduction to shortwave radio, see electronic signals with an oscilloscope, and play games across the radio such as battleships. Another fun game they play is based off on the training mission from the smartphone app Escape Team. The Scouts on this Joda Jodi play a code-breaking game where they race the clock to crack the secret codes that will defuse a bomb that threatens the city. The site is well worth a visit. The link for this can be found in our text edition of the WIA National News, wia.org.au. For VK1 WIA National News, I am Alec, VK2APC in Sydney. Now back over to you, Cole.
Thanks, Alec. Next up, it's Worldwide Special Interest Group's Rescue Radio. In the wake of the devastating and tragic earthquake that struck Morocco on September 8th, satellite data is proving to be a vital asset for emergency response teams. The International Charter Space and Major Disasters, which offers rapid support during major crises, quickly deployed Earth observation assets to assist rescue efforts. Additionally, radar measurements from Europe's Copernicus Sentinel-1 satellite mission are being utilized to assess ground shifts caused by the earthquake. This information not only aids in planning reconstruction efforts, but also advances in scientific research. The powerful 6.8 magnitude earthquake hit the Atlas Mountains, about 75 kilometers from Marrakesh, Morocco, resulting in significant loss of life, building collapses, and infrastructure damage. The International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, along with the United Nations, invoked the International Charter Space and Major Disasters. This initiative allows for the swift provision of satellite imagery to define the extent of the disaster, enhancing rescue operations. In alignment with this collaboration, the Copernicus Emergency Mapping Service was activated to share satellite data in response, and high-resolution images from France's Pléiades satellites were used to create detailed damage maps, aiding rescue teams in their operations. Worldwide Special Interest Groups, stamp collecting radio amateurs. Australia Post is set to mark 100 years of public broadcast radio by showcasing a new Australian stamp release. The new centenary of broadcast radio stamp releases feature images from broadcast radio's early years, with the first day of issue release set for October 17 to mark the centenary of broadcast radio in Australia. Now you're up to date with the latest Worldwide Special Interest Group news. I'm Cole, VK3GTV.
This is VK1 WIA. All points of contacts from today's news stories are to be found in print when you read the web editions, www.wia.org.au.
2023 social scene, and one of our quickest is this month, October. Only one ham activity has been notified, and that is Perth Tech in VK6, happens October 28. So now, until next we meet, I'm Graham, VK4BB. walk softly.
This has been the Wireless Institute of Australia with the weekly news service. This broadcast is in text, audio and video and is accessed on wia.org.au.
Courtesy of Bevan, VK5 BD's ATV and YouTube channel, this has been WIA National News. We're back now, live and local, and your voice, your callbacks. And don't forget, tick like.
This is VK3 OTN, the official station of the Radio Amateurs Old Timers Club of Australia, with this month's news and information bulletin for members and friends of the club for October 2023. I am Andrew, a VK3 Charlie Alpha Hotel. Details on when to hear the news and information bulletins are available at the club's website, www.raotc.org.au. VK3 OTN is available on a wide range of radio platforms, HF, VHF and UHF, along with 2-metre repeaters, amateur television, DMR, that is digital mobile radio, and D-Star. These news broadcasts are available for download for up to 6 months, just in case you missed the original news broadcast from the RAOTC website. Just put RAOTC into your favourite search engine. If you'd like to contact the club, then why not send us an email? Our address is raotc@raotc.org.au. I hope you enjoyed this month's news broadcast. Welcome to the October 2023 edition of RAOTC Club News. At the most recent committee meeting held on August 24, our long-time editor indicated that the latest OTN will be his very last. The committee is appreciative of those who stepped forward to assist with proofreading, and 4 members proofread the September 23 issue. At the recent AGM held via teleconference using Zoom on the 21st of September, 28 voting members and 1 associate member attended from all over Australia, which was really pleasing to see, and we thank the members who attended. Our long-time editor, Bill, VK3BR, indicated he would not be standing for committee. Both our former editor and proofreader are at a stage where age has caught up with them and they simply are unable to continue to serve in their former roles. We are setting up a publications committee to produce the OTN Journal. A member who has experience in desktop publishing has volunteered to do the laying out, and 4 members have offered to do copy editing before the layout stage. We will separate out the layout and desktop work from the rest of the publication process to spread the work out amongst the editorial team. By now, members should have received the September 2023 edition of OTN, with a new bunch of articles written by our members for our members. If you're not a member as yet, you can view the September 22 edition of OTN on the club's website, with the exception of the membership list. Melbourne Luncheons. When you book for the RATC Luncheons, if you're paying by cash over the counter at a Bendigo bank or via internet banking, we request you provide your membership number and call sign. Please post your booking form to the RATC PO Box address or advise us of your booking details via the RATC email address, which is raotc@raotc.org.au. This leads me on to the next topic. When I joined RAOTC, Bill Raper, VK3BR, was doing more than his fair share of the workload, and Bill has announced he will not be continuing on committee and has completely stepped down altogether. Please don't contact Bill directly in regard to RAOTC activities. By all means, correspond with Bill along with others on a personal basis. Messages about RAOTC matters should be sent to the Administrative Officer, which is raotc@raotc.org.au. raotc.org.au. The broadcasts. Feedback I've received in recent times indicate the historical broadcasts that I supply every second month are rather well received. Many members reminisce about the days past. Many operators mentioned are now silent keys, and so on. There have been suggestions that I should sit down and selectively edit out bits and pieces that are no longer relevant from these historical broadcasts. This is not going to happen. They are provided as an interim program until someone else picks up and helps carry the weight. It is either this or nothing. Whoever steps forward is free to produce the broadcast in any format they want, so they may well do it differently from the way I've put it together. There is no hard and fast rule. I just base my content on what my predecessors used as a template. Some old technical talks from years past, along with some new ones, most of which many listeners will be hearing for the first time. New members. This month we have 2 new members. Today I am pleased to welcome the following new members to REATC. AJ Reinman, VK5 Alpha Juliet Radio, and a new member from Scotland, David Searle. Mike 0 Hotel Quebec Delta. Silent keys. Sometimes details are a little slow at reaching the membership officer, which is understandable. It is with regret I report the following silent keys. Mac McDermott, VK5 Foxtrot Lima Echo November, RATC member number 1631, became a silent key in January 2023. Max Mondolo, VK2 Alpha Mike Lima, RATC member number 1227, became a silent key earlier this year. Exact details are not currently at hand. Kevin Trevathan, VK3 Victor Charlie, RAOTC member 1115, became a silent key in June. Bill Fanning, VK3 Delta Whiskey Foxtrot, RAOTC member 1038, became a silent key on the 20th of July 2023. Derek McNeil, VK3 X-Ray Yankee, RATC member 1370, became a silent key on the 28th of July 2023. David Davies, VK3 Mike Hotel Victor, RATC member number 1293, became a silent key on the 3rd of August 2023. Dennis Babel, VK3 Juliet November, RAOTC member number 1756, became a silent key on the 1st of September 2023. Let us pause a moment in memory of our departed colleagues. Members are reminded that the very latest club news is available via the RAOTC website. Put RAOTC into your favourite search engine to find it. www.raotc.org.au. And that's all the club news we have for you at this time. The following obituary for Derek McNeil was received from Ron, VK3 Alpha Foxtrot Whiskey. Over to you, Ron.
Derek McNeil, VK3XY, previously VK3ZVG, VK3NKY, G8OLN, and VK3BYA, became a silent key on Friday, 28th of July 2023. He was born in the UK on the 22nd of March 1944. Derek developed a love of the outdoors riding across the countryside on horses and sailing with his father while a teenager. He was working as a chartered accountant when he met his future wife, who was studying in the UK. They both shared a sense of adventure, and soon after he emigrated to Australia, where they were married. His first amateur licence was obtained in Australia. Derek was a long-time member of the WIA and an active member of WISN, especially during the Ash Wednesday fires and the Mount Macedon fires. Derek also served as treasurer of the WIA Vic, later ARV, treasurer and member of the Radio Amateurs Old Timers Club from 2006 to 2017, and was a regular attendee at the Moorabbin and District's Radio Club meetings. He was a member of the Queenscliff Flotilla VF9 of the Volunteer Coast Guard for 15 years, as a crew member and later coxswain. Derek took up soda activating, but this was curtailed by failing eyesight. He is survived by his wife Margaret, two sons, David and Peter, his daughter Anna, and two grandchildren, Jessie and Sophie. Derek was a genuine gentleman who will be missed by all who knew him. Farewell, Derek. This is Ron, VK3AFW.
You are listening to VK3OTN. VK3OTN is the official station of the Radio Amateurs Old Timers Club, Australia, Incorporated, with the monthly news and information bulletin for members and friends of the club.
This month we have several articles for you. First up is Clive Wallace, a VK6 CSW, who will be talking about the Earth Inductor Compass. This will be followed by Bill Roper, a VK3BR, who tells us about the AA3 Mark 7 gunfire control system. Have you got your own copy of OTN on diskette? Now, it's over to you, Clive.
The Earth Inductor Compass. Charles Lindbergh, the first man to fly solo across the Atlantic, landed safely at Le Bourget Field in Paris at 10:22 p.m. on the 20th of May 1927. The single-engined Spirit of St. Louis had carried him over 3,600 miles in 33.5 hours. On the 9th of June 1928, a Fokker F-7 trimotor monoplane named Southern Cross, piloted by Charles Kingsford Smith, touched down at Brisbane's Eagle Farm Aerodrome to complete the first crossing of the Pacific Ocean by air. One vital navigational instrument that these pioneer aviators had in common was the Earth Inductor Compass, without which neither voyage may have succeeded. From the time man first discovered lodestone until the advent of inertial navigation systems and, nowadays, global positioning satellites, the magnetic compass has played a major role in terrestrial navigation. It developed from a piece of naturally occurring magnetized rock suspended on a string to a highly complex, accurate and reliable means of determining magnetic direction. A simple magnetic Boy Scout type compass was probably the first navigational instrument ever fitted to an aeroplane. You may be surprised to learn that even today a simple direct reading magnetic compass is required by law to be fitted to all aircraft. Even the latest glass cockpit electronic marvels have one clearly visible to the pilots. When everything else, electric and electronic, has failed, it just might save the day. On the face of it, fitting a magnetic compass to an aircraft seems simple enough. Pop the thing in the cockpit, where it can easily be seen, add a few compensating magnets to take care of residual magnetism caused by any ferrous material in the surrounding structure, calibrate it with compass swing, and off we go. Unfortunately, it's not quite that simple. The magnetic compass is designed to sense only the horizontal component of the Earth's magnetic field, but the lines of force are parallel to the Earth's surface only at the equator. At all other latitudes, the lines are tilted until becoming essentially vertical at the magnetic poles. To keep the compass card or needle in the horizontal plane, it needs to be slightly pendulous. Without going into too much detail, in an aircraft, this leads to acceleration and turning errors and may cause quite severe compass gyrations in turbulence. Over the years, much effort has gone into solving these shortcomings. One early attempt to improve on the basic aeronautical magnetic compass was the Earth inductor. A simple dynamo works by spinning a coil in the field of a permanent magnet. Positioning the commutator to tap off the voltage while the coil is cutting the maximum number of lines of magnetic force will output the highest voltage. Similarly, if we spin a vertical coil in the Earth's magnetic field, it will generate a voltage which will be greatest when the coil's windings cut the field at a right angle. Rotating the device to produce maximum output means that it must be at right angles to the horizontal component of the Earth's magnetic field, and therefore indicating magnetic north or south. At any other angle, a lesser voltage will be generated, becoming zero when magnetically east or west. Since the output varies with the sign of the angle to the magnetic field, it should be possible to calibrate the output to read magnetic heading on a galvanometer scale. Attractive as this idea is, it will produce identical maxima whether pointing north or south, and minima when east or west, a potential navigational embarrassment. Also, of course, the Earth's magnetic field is very weak compared with the dynamo's magnets, and the voltage generated is correspondingly small. An American, Donald M. Bliss, used this idea in his Earth inductor compass, patented in 1912, the aim being to provide a more stable instrument than the simple magnetic compass. To solve the north-south ambiguity problem, his original design used two armatures spinning vertically on a common axis, with two sets of commutators, one for each armature, aligned at 90 degrees to each other. Each commutator was connected to its own sensitive galvanometer. Thus, when one set of commutators was aligned with the Earth's magnetic field, no current was generated while the other set produced maximum voltage. As the instrument was rotated relative to the Earth's line of magnetic force, so the readings on the galvanometers varied, and the readings could be calibrated in terms of magnetic heading. The idea was good, but the readings could be upset by variations in the rotational speed of the armatures and also by stray magnetism. By gimbal mounting the instrument, the gyroscopic action of the rotating armatures tended to keep them spinning stably in the vertical axis. While sound in principle, the instrument would have been cumbersome to operate. Maurice Maxey Titterington, born in 1891, graduated from Washington's Bliss Electrical School in 1913. In 1914, he learned to fly at the Curtiss Flying School, and in 1918 was working for the Sperry Gyroscope Corporation. A year later, he and Bryce Herbert Goldsborough, an instrument designer at Sperry and a fellow aviator, founded the Pioneer Instrument Company. By 1924, Titterington, who was included in the 1925 edition of Who's Who in American Aviation, had revisited Bliss's idea and developed the first really practical Earth inductor compass, patented in 1924. Just as it is much easier for a person when radio direction finding to detect an aural null rather than a maximum signal, so it's easier to detect a zero voltage from an Earth inductor rather than a maximum. The revised design allowed the user to rotate the commutators in such a way that zero current would be produced when the craft was travelling in the intended direction. A single galvanometer was then used to show if the pilot was steering too far to the left or to the right. In other words, the pilot could preset the required magnetic heading and maintain it simply by keeping the center zero reading galvanometer on the zero mark. North-south ambiguity was also taken care of. If the pilot inadvertently set off on a reciprocal track, making what appeared to be the proper correction to regain heading would increase the needle movement further away from the center zero mark. This metering arrangement also meant that armature speed was less critical. An on-heading 0 reading would be unaffected, while an off-heading signal output simply meant a slightly lesser needle movement if the armature speed was lower. The armature was usually powered by a small slipstream-driven propeller through a universal joint, the pendulosity and gyroscopic effects keeping the generating system vertical in order to detect only the horizontal magnetic component. The other major improvement Titterington made was to make the movable commutator mechanism remotely operated via a Bowden cable connected to a calibrated crank in the cockpit, enabling the inductor to be remotely located in the aircraft, well away from unwanted magnetic influences such as engines or steel structures. From the pilot's perspective, he could crank in the required magnetic heading and then fly it by keeping the galvanometer needle centered. The first major success for Tittering's EIC came quickly. In 1923, the US Army Air Service commissioned the Douglas Aircraft Company to build 4 special World Cruiser aircraft to attempt a round-the-world flight in 1924. Each was fitted with an Earth inductor compass, and although only 2 of the aircraft completed the arduous 27,553-mile flight, taking 371 hours and 11 minutes, the EICs performed well. When Charles Lindbergh made the first solo crossing of the Atlantic in his Spirit of St. Louis in May 1927, he relied on his Pioneer EIC for navigation. Without it, he may well not have succeeded. Prior to his successful attempt to cross the Pacific in 1928, Charles Kingford Smith insisted that the Southern Cross be fitted with a Pioneer Company Earth inductor compass. He realized that on the first and second legs to Hawaii and then Fiji, the destinations were easy to miss, and already several attempts to fly from America's west coast to the Hawaiian Islands had ended in tragedy through navigational errors. In the Southern Cross, the navigator, Harry Lyon, could select the required magnetic course from his desk while the indicating galvanometer was located on the pilot's instrument panel. Although the aircraft also carried 3 traditional magnetic compasses, Smithy claimed that the EIC was the most valuable steering instrument that we carried. Unfortunately, Titterington didn't live long enough to truly benefit from his success. In 1928 he took off in a Travel Air 5000 single-engine monoplane, headed across the Pennsylvania mountains and crashed to his death during bad weather after the aircraft was struck by lightning. Although the EIC was further developed by others, a decade or so later the Fluxgate and gyro compass systems had eclipsed the EIC, though both used the basic idea developed by the Pioneer Company. Following Titterington's death in 1928, Pioneer was acquired by the Bendix Corporation. As the United States was entering World War II, the company became the Pioneer Instrument Division of Bendix Aviation and moved to New Jersey. By 1943, it had become the Eclipse Pioneer Division of Bendix Aviation, producing, amongst other things, the latest in aviation compasses.
Thanks very much, Clive.
You are listening to VK30TN and associated relay stations. VK30TN is the official station of the Radio Amateurs Old Timers Club, Australia, Incorporated, with the monthly news and information bulletin for members and friends of the club.
AAE-3 Mark 7 gunfire control system. Here is part of an interesting email received from Craig Cook, VK3KG, RAOTC member number 931. And Craig writes, "What an interesting read I had this time of the September 2012 issue of OTN magazine. I was very interested in the article by Peter VK3RV on radar and the involvement of Alan Buttermont and Philip Pollard in 1931. This was leading up to the war years and the chain home system. My interest was piqued when I saw mention of involvement with the gunfire control system known as the AA-3 Mark 7. I am familiar with this system as it was the first radar I was trained on in the Army, and it was by then modified for a field role of tracking mortar bombs in flight. In its usual application in anti-aircraft, it was known as a fire control radar, and used to put on the 3.7-inch AA guns via a predictor unit to the target. The 3 Mark 7 took initial search data either from a visual application or another radar known as a tactical control radar that had different characteristics from the 3 Mark 7. As Australia decommissioned our anti-aircraft system in the middle 1950s, these radars and guns became obsolete. But the 3 Mark 7s were still used as weather balloon tracking, and with a small modification to readout displays, were then used by the Army for location of hostile enemy mortars. These were used in the regular Army as well as the CMF, later known as Army Reserve, until we purchased the American Field Mortar Locator, the AN/KPQ-1, around 1965. The 3 Mark 7 also saw service at Woomera during the rocket trials in the 1960s. And there is a chapter in Fire Across the Desert by Peter Morton, an AGPS publication. These radars now reside in a couple of places on display or personal collections. The other tactical control radars seem to have been totally lost, and I've not been able to locate any in captivity. Perhaps it may be because of the frequency of operation that fell into the middle of the old black and white TV band allocation, and authorities didn't want any high-powered jammers being towed around the countryside. Thanks, Craig, for that very interesting item. You're listening to VK3OTN and associated relay stations.
Thanks very much, Bill.
Perth Luncheons. The popular and well-attended monthly luncheons for RAOTC members and friends in and around the Perth area are held on the second Tuesday of each month. The VK6 RAOTC group have a new venue, the Woodbridge Hotel, 50 East Street, East Guildford. Reports indicate the hospitality to be excellent. The Perth group meet at 11:30 a.m. for lunch at 12 midday. This is not a buffet meal, but excellent food in both pensioner and standard portions are available. We would like to place the orders at 12 midday, so please don't be late. This information is courtesy of Phil, VK6ZKO, whose contact details can be found on the club website.
In keeping with tradition, we conclude this broadcast with a short story entitled A Golfer's Wisdom. A young man was just about to start a round of golf when an elderly gentleman walked over to ask if he could join him. And despite misgivings that the older player might slow him down, the younger one agreed. To his surprise and delight, the old man was a quick player. He only ever hit his drives about 150 yards, but he was no slouch along the fairways. Eventually they reached the 10th hole, where the younger player hooked his drive into a plantation, leaving himself with a tall pine tree standing between his ball and the green. Seeing his opponent's predicament, the old man volunteered. "When I was your age, I used to hit the ball right over that tree to the green." Without stopping to think, so eager was he to show off his skills, the young man took an almighty swing at the ball and then watched in horror as it thudded into the tree trunk and rebounded 20 yards behind him. The old man remained silent for a few seconds before remarking, "Of course, when I was your age, that pine tree was only 3 feet tall."
That's all we have for you this month, and we hope you found something of interest. Thanks for being with us, and we hope you will join in the callbacks, where callbacks are taken. The next RAOTC news and information broadcast will take place on the first Monday of next month, on the same frequencies and at the same times as today, with the exception of January. If you have missed all or part of this broadcast, or you just want to listen to it again, it is available for download from the RAOTC website. Simply go to www.raotc.org.au. Again, the website URL is www.raotc.org.au. On the right-hand side is the main menu. Click on VK3OTN Broadcasts and you will be able to see the various times and frequencies of the VK3OTN transmissions by all of our volunteers, provided of course a volunteer is available. Down towards the bottom of the page is the current and previous 5 broadcasts for you to listen to. Sometimes the relay station is an automated broadcast, for example, a repeater, when no operator is available to take callbacks. Other times the volunteer operator suffers from very heavy local Q iron and callbacks are not always possible. Many operators need a small amount of time to switch from playing a recorded file to using a microphone. Please be mindful of this. This is VK3OTN signing clear from today's news and information session. 73 from the RAOTC broadcast team.